Thank you, Linda. And I realize I'm the only person standing between you and Chef Scott. So I'll keep my remarks brief, but I do want to start with a personal anecdote. I grew up in landlocked Mexico City in the 1980s. And back then, seafood wasn't just dinner. It was really an event. So things like shrimp, it was a real luxury. And sushi was pretty much unheard of. And even tilapia was a stranger to most dinners. And today, something remarkable is happening. In Mexico City, which is a pork and a chicken stronghold, it's now bursting with ceviche bars and sushi counters, and even street vendors are selling seafood like it's just part of the culture. And it's a remarkable shift. And I think this evolution is not just about Mexico City, but it's a signal of something bigger. Because across the globe, and right here in the United States, we're witnessing a transformation, a change in how we eat, and especially a change in what we expect. So I ask you, and the topic of the speech is what will it take for us to really become a nation powered by seafood? And I'm not obviously offering any silver bullets, but I'm also here to say that the path forward it's quite straightforward. We must grow demand, we must grow supply, and we'll be fueling public health if we're successful, and economic growth, and a better future. But of course, the devil is in the details. So if you allow me to use a seafood pun, let's dive in. Yeah. Let's start with demand first, and then we'll go to supply. Today's consumer is really informed. It's curious, it's connected, and they're exposed to more cultures and more foods and more choices than ever before. And they're just not eating. They're exploring. We're exploring. And they're making different choices. When it comes to seafood, the numbers don't lie. The shift is quite remarkable. There's a recent study by Spirit Research. They put out a report called the Consumer Sentiment Report. And it shows that millennials across the US, across all income levels, are eating seafood twice as frequently as baby boomers. Even millennials earning less than $50,000 a year, they're still eating twice as frequently as baby boomers in the same income bracket. Millennials help transform sushi, once and niche, into a genuine everyday seafood, everyday meal option. And today's most frequent seafood consumer, you're never going to guess. They're actually high-income Gen Zers. They're not the biggest spenders yet, but they're the most frequent. So there's a shift happening here in America, and seafood is at the heart of it. But here's a challenge. The seafood aisle hasn't kept up. Frozen shrimp and canned tuna and the fish sticks, these are great staples, but they aren't enough. And they're not enough for this generation, and they're not enough for this moment. We need to meet consumers where they are. One of my favorite books, Revolution at the Table, talks about how Americans changed the way we ate between 1880 and 1930. And back then, we were quite skeptical about food. Tomatoes and garlic, we were quite suspicious about those. And Italian foods were just like foreign. But today, pizza and pasta are as American as apple pie. And even ketchup, a tomato-based sauce, it's our favorite condiment. And this would have been unthinkable 100 years ago. I believe seafood is on the same path. Millennials and Gen Zers are embracing it. And demographics will eventually play out. Our biggest demand challenge today is actually frequency, low frequency. Because here's the truth, and Linda just mentioned this previously. Even though 90% of Americans eat seafood at least once per year, 80 to 90% of them aren't eating enough. So that's not really a market problem. That's what category managers call a frequency problem. That means that 80 to 90% of Americans aren't meeting the dietary guidelines they now support. So to put this in perspective, seafood's once a year crowd is 3 times larger than beef's once a year crowd. and 4 times larger than chickens once a year. So what is holding us back with seafood? I think it's price and convenience and promotion together. Because consumers routinely say it's too expensive, or it's not on sale, or I don't know how to cook it. And you know what? I think they're right. Because the industry continues to primarily offer, fish loins and fillets and salmon portions and bags of shrimp. And these are great for the seasoned cook, but it's too much work for the average consumer. So just like most folks don't cook ribeye steaks every day of the week, they won't cook seafood every day if it's complicated or costly. So you take a look at what's available today and what's convenient and what's affordable. There's some great products out there, don't get me wrong, but if you walk down the meal solutions aisle in your local grocery store, count the number of chicken and beef and pork items you see, and then count the seafood. There are really only 1 or 2 brands that consistently offer innovative seafood meal solutions nationally at scale. So that's opportunity. It's just untapped. It's just waiting there. Consumers want healthy, protein-rich, responsibly produced food. That's seafood by definition. But they also want culinary exciting quick meals, eat and serve options, drive-through and delivery convenience. They want it all on a budget. So here's my first one. A nation powered by seafood has to have convenient and affordable options, but we must do it at scale. We must be able to compete for consumers' attention versus chicken or versus pork or versus quick service restaurants, eat and serve, snacks, school lunches, as ubiquitous as chicken. We have the opportunity to meet consumers where they are and to inspire new ways to enjoy seafood. Seafood can become America's everyday favorite protein, but the seafood industry must rise to the challenge. Campaigns like S&P's Fall in Love with Seafood are showing us there's a way to collaborate at scale. A push-pull strategy, coupons, promotions, social recipes. Retailers like H-E-B and Publix are seeing real impact. We need to do more of this. We need to think outside the box to get on America's plate. But addressing demand is not going to be enough. We must also address supply. Because here's the paradox. Americans consume about 20% of the world's seafood, but produces only a fraction of it. We have the coastline, we have the rivers and the lakes, and we have the talent. It seems that what we still need is the will. In the 20th century, the challenge in seafood was about food safety. We didn't really have a robust supply chain or cold chain to get it safely to consumers. But today that's solved. You can find safe, delicious seafood, even in small dollar stores in rural America. And I personally had grocery sushi off of I-80 in Nebraska, and it was delicious. So, we do need to invest in modernizing our fishing fleets and our port infrastructure. We also need to invest in domestic aquaculture, and I'll touch on that in a second. We need to partner with nations that already have world-class seafood standards. We need to ensure that our seafood is not only abundant, but responsible and sustainable and transparent. I believe aquaculture is key to our future. And we're making progress in many parts of the world. Entrepreneurs and family farms and corporations, for decades, they've been raising the bar on stewardship and welfare and safety and transparency. Yet, we've barely tapped into our domestic fisheries. Just as we have the best managed fisheries, there is no reason why we can't have the world's best managed aquaculture. It's not an either or, it can be an and. So here's my second point. To be a nation powered by seafood, we must produce more of it, while also collaborating with and prioritizing trading partners with high standards. A country with 5 to 6% of the world's coasts and 20% of the world's demand shouldn't have to import 75% of this. Because seafood isn't just food, and should certainly not be a luxury item. Seafood is opportunity, and it's new jobs, and it's food security, and it promotes brain development for our children and heart health for our seniors. It is more IQ for us all. Simply put, it is quality of life, and a healthy population is a productive population with fewer healthcare costs and more healthy days. With just 2 servings a week, we have the chance to be a healthier country, and maybe in the process be a little bit happier and a little bit smarter. We cannot afford not to have seafood in our diets. Seafood Nutrition Partnership and the Seafood Nutrition Advisory Council are playing a vital role. The MAHA Commission's inclusion of seafood and omega-3 as contributors to a healthy diet. That's impact. 4 to 5x return on promotional investment with Publix and H-E-B. That's impact. A mutual partnership that can credibly and recurrently convey diverse and leading voices to advocate for consumer health through seafood. That's impact. And at Cargill, we share these commitments to health and to safety and to nutrition. And we're ready to collaborate and to strengthen supply and to help improve public health. Because the challenge in the 21st century is not going to be to produce enough food for us all. It's going to be to be able to eat in a way that protects our health and our planet. And Americans want choice, they want taste, they want nutrition, they want convenience, and they do care how food is made. We need an innovative food system, and seafood has the potential to be at the center of it. So here's my third and my final point, and it's a call to action. We need people like you to step up. We need your enthusiasm, we need your energy, and we need your insight. S&P is small, but it punches way above its weight. So when you get back home, talk about S&P's mission and talk about our success, but also talk about our need for resources. Because today, the seafood industry and NGOs are facing tough times. S&P needs your help to raise awareness and to engage donors, so we can continue to inform and to engage, and most importantly, to continue to inspire American consumers. So thank you for joining us in DC for the 2025 edition of the State of the Science Symposium. It is a favorite in my calendar, and at Cargill, we're very proud to be a sponsor. On behalf of the S&P board and the organizations that we represent, thank you for your support to this wonderful partnership. Your important work gives S&P its credibility, but most importantly, its inspiration. Now, I invite you to continue the conversation in our networking reception. And I just want to thank you all for attending this wonderful event, and I hope to see you again in 2020.